and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter, escaping the heat into a weird working schedule. And the time where I pressed record was a Mars day, Mars hour, with Mars in Virgo, 0 degrees Virgo. So Mars is on Regulus today. And Mercury sitting pretty in the 10th, just ingressed into Leo. It's time to talk Mercury in Leo. So, yeah. I'll begin, before I'll go to the transit and what it will do in Leo right now, I'll begin with a bit of a timeless teaching around Mercury and Leo. So let's compartmentalize again. What does Mercury rule over? So Mercury is ruling Virgo and it's ruling Pisces. That means it rules your intestines, Virgo. It rules your hands and fingers, Gemini. It rules children. It rules commerce. It rules herbs and the type of medicine that is like chemistry, chemical compound. Breaking things apart is very mercurial, especially in Virgo. And diagnosing frequencies. It can also be very energetic. Plenty of Virgo placements are found within people that can be HSP, okay, high sensitive. It's not just Virgo, there are many types of HSP, but they can be very sensitive to the frequencies, to the energy in the room, in the house. They have to have, and there the rain comes to cleanliness, okay? So Mercury in itself also rules in some way, shape or form some type of clarity that is achieved by cleaning either physically or emotionally. And the way to emotionally clean is either with action, it's Mars, now Mars in Virgo, or with words. And Mercury also rules the words, the expression, the way we clean up our chest. And this is already beginning to come into the Leo. Just some more things that Mercury rules is the gateways and doorways where you enter in between spaces, including like crossing over, kind of a psychopomp, which is Hermes, which is linked with Mercury. The very alchemy itself, okay, as within, so outside, as above, so below, it's very mercurial. So therefore doors, and we said commerce, and that also rules the commerce and words is bureaucracy, contracts. Okay, and we know the usual meme that even people who don't know anything about astrology kind of go like, oh, my phone, my things that holds the documentation, okay, like the messages of technological devices. Oh, my phone broke, my this broke, my that broke. It's a Mercury retrograde, also is co-ruling the nervous system, and thereby also associated with the skin. Though Saturn is pretty much the skin, but Mercury, for ruling the nervous system, is also linked to the skin. And you can see that Saturn, as the ruler of Aquarius, is how our nervous system affects the skin. So it kind of can get tricky. That's Mercury. Okay. Now, oh, and of course there's because of contracts, it's also jurisdics. It's kind of co-ruling with Libra. So even though it does not rule, it's triplicity, ruler of the air signs. Now, we talked about using words and communication or herbs to clean up the heart. And the heart is already a Leo territory. So we begin to see the connection between this Mercury planet that adjusts itself and discerns and blends and mixes, and it can even do trickery and alchemy, which is kind of like trickery, to Leo that is ruled by the sun and rules the heart. So Leo, Lion, okay? Lion is the king of the animal kingdom. So who are the rulers? Who are the rulers in the house? Okay? Who is the boss? So we see it as ruling literally kings and queens in monarchy and their fall with eclipses, especially solar eclipses, that are linked to royalty. So a king falling, or queen falling, and also solar figures. Solar figures can be leaders by many merits, and this denotes to what makes a person a leader. Okay? Wherever the sun is where we are potentially the leaders of, or the kings and queens of our kingdom, and many things can make a person a leader. We can have it in the ancestry, like monarchy, or we can have it through politics, culture. It's a person that you do see in the front, unless it's like, I don't know, Sun, Pluto, or whatnot. So the kings and queens behind the stages. But the sun is the center of the universe. So for those who think that astrology assumes that the earth is the center of the universe and the sun revolves around it, I'll send you to the videos that African people make about Africa is not a country. Okay, so astrology is not flat earthers and people who believe that the sun revolves around the earth. So the sun is the center of the universe, of the galaxy. Scrap that, of the galaxy, and the planets revolve around it. Okay, it's centered, it shines its own light, and it's sort of a kind of a gravitational point that draws people, but not draw people into it, because if you come close to the sun, you burn. It draws people, it draws beings to circle around it. Now you can kind of think of what kind of beings you have. You see people circling around them. Those people are solar figures. It can be from the person who walks in the club and the people flock around them. Solar figure. It can be the political leader, and there is a party of journalists. So journalism is also Mercury, ruling words, right? Communication, society. And so that leader that is surrounded by journalists is very much Mercury in Leo, but it can also display the events of many journalists around the leader. Okay, and I haven't seen the news yet, so this is really fun for me, because I'm like, I just opened up the page, so I don't know what am I going to see in the news today. And I always like the synchronicity. So you can write me in the comments below, what is stupid Shirley didn't see today? And I say stupid with parentheses because you want to look at astrology sometimes stupid. Okay, I haven't seen the news, I haven't looked, I haven't observed, I'm just seeing a chart, and I think what can be. Then I open the news and I'm like, oh my god. So we might do it live even, and I'll translate some stuff from you. So this is the leader that is surrounded by journalists. Okay, this can also be that way. It can also mean a journalist, okay, that suddenly becomes a star. Okay, a journalist that suddenly, now, people who have natally Sun with Mercury, Sun conjunct in Mercury, Sun aspect in Mercury, the link of journalism, trade, commerce can be linked with who they are. If it's conjunction, they may shine. If it's the sun is ruling their ascendant or Mercury ruling their ascendant, they can shine as journalism. Maybe they are a leader of famous journalists. So we can have famous journalists. Okay. Some journalist is famous for some reason. Now we gotta really look at what's going on in Gemini, which is nothing right now. And in Virgo we have Mars. So whoever this journalist is going to have a Mars Virgo. It can also mean that is a famous author. Okay, man of word, woman of word. Words is mercurial. Virgo is the type of, it's an author of a book. Okay, it's not a vlog. That can be more Gemini. But definitely somebody who wrote a corpus of work, and they can be famous. So they, or maybe there's some news around famous authors. With Mars, these mercurial figures can be militant. So a person who wrote, let's say an ex-Mossad agent that wrote a book about the Mossad. Okay, that can be a person who is in the news, because Mars can also rule intelligence services and penetrating into depth of information and then writing a corpus of work around this. That can be people who are business people, so mercurial people. Donald Trump, who has, I think, he has ascendant Leo 29, if I'm not mistaken, and Sun in Gemini. Okay, Elon Musk has ascendant 29 Gemini, the Sun in Cancer, right now Sun in Cancer. So Donald Trump and Elon Musk, respectively, can kind of come. It's not that they're not in the news, but there can be other, like, more stuff to do with these people. There's kind of Mercury Sol. So there can be big news around these people, them in the news. To some degree, now Mercury is separating from Pluto. Famous hackers, okay? Someone who is hacking into a system and is famous because of that. I'm not saying like Anonymous. I was thinking about Anonymous actually today, but Anonymous is a group of people. It's more decentralized, so I really don't know how it works in this sense. But it can be even someone who shines by the merit of them being mercurial. So it can also mean a hacker or somebody who hacks like into the Pentagon, or this, because Pluto is in Capricorn, so it's going to be government-related hacking and famous hackers. We might even see in their faces, or they may be hidden, or they may be, oh, this famous person works with this mask. So there can be a mask around the famous person, but this is when Mercury is opposing Pluto, which is now separating. So we are likely to see a phase as we continue. More Mercury Leo. You know, famous people in the news, so Scandalous. And with Venus going retrograde and Lilith in Leo, there can be sexual scandals too. Okay? I know there is this person that I don't even remember his name. I don't know who he is or what he was, but he was scandalous for having emotional abusive relation. But this was when Mercury was in Cancer. So Cancer is emotional, and with Pluto, okay, power. So trying to overpower somebody through the emotions or play on the emotions is very much Mercury Cancer. So trickery with emotions and trying to make a person psychotic or psychic. Eventually it is psychic, huh? They will just get psychic on you, huh? But that was when Mercury was in Cancer. Now Mercury in Leo. So I think the divorce or supposed divorce of Harry and Meghan, it was before the ingress, I believe, of Mercury into Leo. So even though they are solar figures and you're probably, oh, that happened, I think that was before the ingress. So I don't include that as Mercury into Leo, but definitely we will see scandals around solar figures, celebrities, leaders, and because of the co-presence of both Lilith and Venus, it can be even women, okay? So women leaders, it can be, and they can be both a woman who exposes a certain scandal that has to do with relationships or with relationships and finances. Okay, finances, both Mercury and Venus have to do with finances as well. So it's going to be an economic finance. There is also sex scandal, something like this. With the co-presence of Lilith, it can very well be, the archetype of Lilith is basically the first woman that did not agree to be subordinate to Adam, and so she was cast out of heaven. And then there was a story where she kidnaps children because, hey, she wants to be a mom. So she kidnaps children. Like, who will she have a child with if she doesn't have a partner? So she kidnaps children. From her, it's like, oh, fuck it. So whether that story is true or not, but this is basically the story about the woman who will not be subordinate. Okay, so with Mercury coming around, we might have on the news women who will not agree to be subordinate. Okay, and that can be in the performing, entertainment. If you're thinking, oh, what, me too again? I'm thinking, oh, what again? But yes, it definitely can be another wave of something like that. Absolutely, even more exposures, more stuff like this. Yeah. So that can be those type of situations. Mercury also rules children, so children's stories on the news. While it can absolutely be some, the Magic Child TV shows, the Magical Child, the TV shows, this kind of prodigy child, this focus on these children that they can do mathematicians, children scholars, children actresses, children singers. That can be, if for the celebrities who do have children, like, Pink, Beyonce, even the Kardashians. I think Beyonce and Pink are doing music. So, like, Blue Ivy can launch an album, although Venus is retrograde, so it will be retrograde. So, there are better times to do that. But it can absolutely be like, hey, Blue Ivy dropped that album. So that can absolutely be the case. So children doing singing, which can actually be some of the most positive displays of this. Communication to do with the heart. So people communicate about how they feel and their experience, their world, the way they see the world. This is my story. Okay, that can very much be a theme around Mercury Leo. It definitely means that a person, the desire to communicate comes because they want appreciation and attention, to be adored, and so they will communicate in a way that is either very noble or very provocative, that draws in the magnet of attention as we so wish for it to be. So yeah, that is also the case. And that's something we need to be aware of. So people will be scandalous. People will be both provocative for being provocative, and they will be provocative for things that actually do need to change, as was in the Me Too era. Okay, it was not just people wanting the stage. It was like, oh, for them, this really needs to change. And you always want to listen to it when Mercury is in Leo, before Mercury gets like into Scorpio or into Capricorn or into Pisces. Even Pisces, if you think about Pisces, they're not good with, now they can be great hackers. They can call like the invisible malware stuff. So when people speak their heart, listen to them. If they need validation, if they need to be adored, to be this, to be that, and kind of like think about fame as something that all of us need a little bit of the limelight at certain stage and certain phase and certain times in our lives. So this transit, we may desire to have a bit of the spotlight more so than usual. We might be, and people might be way more okay with ending up on the news. So if you're thinking, oh, this person wouldn't want this embarrassment, They wouldn't talk about it. I can try in the beginning, especially I can try to exploit. They are okay with being on the news. Remember me too, okay? Please. People that we don't, not only the entertainment, people that we don't usually see on camera, we're okay with saying, my name is, this is what happened to me by this person in this name. Okay? And those can be your secretary. There can be a woman who does, I had, my friend Maya Fierst, she was doing statistics for research. So the most like, in her office, closed in her office, not the person of the limelight, not the person of anything like that. She was seen in her face in the parliament. It's like, no, and she fought for 8 years to be able to just say her name. This happened to me. Okay, so again, if you are thinking that you can exploit, embarrass, hide, oppress, and the person would not want the embarrassment and would not want the fame, and you can do this to this person because they don't want to be seen so much, now they are very much okay with being seen. That is unlike the usual. Okay? Me Too was also when people stopped wearing masks around, when they would testify about the story of being a victim, being this, being that. Okay? And victims' vulnerability. Okay? They no longer wanted their voices distorted. They no longer wanted their faces hidden. This is my name, this is my face, this is my voice. I have nothing to be ashamed about. I remind you, okay, I remind you. We are again in this time, again with Venus retrograde, with Lilith, trine in Aries. Please, if you think somebody will not want to be embarrassed, is introvert and therefore you can hurt them, or desires fame and therefore you think they wouldn't tell the story, they will tell the story. Even the most introvert people with Mercury here, they go to the limelight in their name, in their face. And this is something that we all need to remember. People are going to be agreeing to be exposed, if needed be, for the sake of Venus retrograde changing and transforming values. Again, there are leaders in changing and transforming values. And it's going to be the type of people that are like, I'm not an actress, I'm not a performer, I'm not a politician, I'm not a journalist, I'm not a this, I'm not a that. I am willing to put the camera in my face and learn about PR and learn about these things and do what is needed for me to do so that this will change, okay? Leo is a fixed sign. So people are going to be fixed while they are changing their values, they are communicating them, and they will do so persistently, okay? They will communicate their story with vulnerability. And again, you really want to listen to Mercury when he's communicating in Leo. Don't let this get past here. Change today. Don't let this get past here, because later, Mars is already in Mercury sign. It's already action in Mercury sign, and Mercury we will get to Scorpio. We'll get, so it will be with Ketu, will get to Scorpio. He will get to Jupiter, even Sagittarius with Jupiter applying to conjunct Uranus. Oh my God, people will speak and they will be educated. And then it will be in Capricorn, which is Saturn sign, like you really don't want to go there, they can kill you with their words, and so on and so forth. And of course, the Aquarius and even Pisces, you wanted them anonymous, now they become anonymous, okay? The hacking pack. So listen to people now. And this is timeless teaching for Mercury Leo. Okay? If Mercury Leo is very much when a person tells you about themselves, believes who they are as well. Okay, as you know the sentence, if a man tells you who he is, or if a person tells you who he or she is, believe them. This is the time where we really need to believe. We are asked to believe, and we have good reasons to do so, because people are being vulnerable. They speak their heart out. Believe them. Believe them now. When a person says, this and this happened to me, now it's the time to believe them, because they are speaking because they want to change what happened to them. And you can always see it in the speech. Mercury now is doing those things. It will do so with technology. The scandals around even royalty figures or leaders will have to do with those changing of the times. So this is, and as for economy, so people are going to do trade around, people are going to rethink their value. Okay, when was the last time I bought an album? When was the last time I went to a concert that is not Beyonce? With all due respect to Beyonce, I mean, it's always good to see her perform, but when was I last seen an other artist, or a beginner musician, or a painter? When was the last time I bought a painting? Those people will begin to have transactions around this stuff. And the art itself can depict more royal figures or famous people, or give fame, okay, as an activism, kind of the flip, give fame to people that we didn't show limelight in society, stories that are more vulnerable, intricate. With Lilith, there can be, well, there can be kind of Lilith figures. It can be people whose ideas and the morals around what is sexual, what is intimate, does not apply to subordinate. So if you think it the dominatrix, I think you should think again, because it is way more than that. It is way more than, oh, I want to dominate in bed, because it's not necessarily that. It can be, but it's not necessarily that. It's literally those who will not be subordinate. And it's not an act, okay? It's the real thing. It's the real deal. I think about Madonna, the famous show where Madonna was masturbating and kind of squirting on stage. That's the kind of stuff that we can see being broadcasted. So those are, and of course the type of sex scandals that includes cameras or surveillance can also be exposed. If it is somebody's like 12th house, then it can be surveillance in hotel rooms or even in jail. That's more of the timeless teaching. Now let's look at the transits themselves. So without further ado, let's go into Mercury. Enters Leo on July 11th, which is today, and it squares the nodes. So it opposes Pluto, it separates from an opposition to Pluto, and squares the nodes. And let's see if I can get you some asteroids here so you can see what else is doing. Yeah. So it does square, separates from a square to Aries as well. That means the square to Humia. Communication around fertility, because it's Mercury. Mercury is small thing. Mars in Mercury sign is the needle, so it's shots and vaccines. Another line, another chapter of the discussion about how certain vaccines, not just COVID, it can be some more stuff even, but certain needles, certain shots affect fertility. Okay, because Humia is about children, and unfortunately Humia with Keto can denote of a loss regarding the ability to conceive and bring children, birth children with natural means. Okay, and I did a satire about this, the blue pill, red pill area codes one. You can check in my shorts, but it's also around, because of Aries here and Mercury, which is both are gender blenders. It can be the effect of fertility, the effect of gender affirming operations on fertility. Should we do it with children? Should we not? we can have another, another chapter of that in the news, maybe some story, somebody tells their story, people telling their personal story. But we can have it a bit more accentuated here with the opposition to Pluto. The communication of the leaders or around the leaders is at odds with the plutocracy, okay, with the organization. So there can be leaders that are ostracized by their own governments. I'm not saying impeachment, but that can mean impeachment. And the sun is still in Cancer, so emotional stuff do come up. That can be, a leader is feeling ostracized by the government, okay? Which is the case for many countries now, including even Russia, with Wagner Force and so. So that can have, because of the square to the north, the moon is, was actually going over this, so I might even have something. I will do another segment where I look at what is in the news and we'll try to see if something I can pinpoint. So this is the ingress. The ingress is loud, okay? The ingress is loud because Mercury opposing Pluto squaring the north, separating from a square to Aries, is loud. We hear about this, it's on, and it can be even loud in its absence. I even seen 2 days ago there was some comment on one of the podcasts that's quite famous in the community in astrology, and somebody said, why didn't you broadcast about the breaking of the First Amendment, the basically jailing journalists for broadcasting stuff? And then I looked it up and I saw there were things from even 9 months ago, and I was like, okay, but we must understand generally, I'm half Israeli, half Dutch. People in the United States might not be able, Edward Snowden will not speak about Russia because this is his shelter after he exposed the United States. So stuff like that can come up in the sense of people started questioning, why didn't you, or what happened, I think in Ohio, okay, with the gas pollution leaking or whatnot. Why is that not being broadcasted? What is not on the news? So this is where people are going to ask, what is missing? Why didn't you show this? Why is this not on the news? And they can ask, each and every one of the people who are doing these professions of public speech. Now is very much time for public speech and leading figures. So we need to understand that this is an issue, and also we need to be very much aware of the freedom. It was so meta because it was about the First Amendment, but the freedom of speech of all of us has a certain scope, and there are some things that sometimes we're not aware, and sometimes we cannot speak about this particular thing or this particular item and so on and so forth. So that issue of what can you discuss, what can you not discuss, this blames and accusations, but also bringing it to, and sometimes you cannot discuss this, but you're very happy that somebody mentions it, that somebody says something, you can't say anything, okay? And again, I'm taking you back to the days of the Me Too-like events and Me Too-like eras, and even COVID stuff, where you could not really comment. You could only support silently, but you could not really comment. And you wouldn't know, people wouldn't know if a person is for or against this value. This is the ingress. And now let's see what's up next. So Mercury trines Jupiter on July 17th. Squares. How can it trine Jupiter from Leo? So Mercury squares Jupiter on July 17th. With Sun will still be in Cancer, and Venus will be kind of like slowly settling into the retrograde, but still direct. Lily 21 degrees. So this is, we had the Mercury sextile Jupiter from Mercury being in Cancer. Now we have a square. Mercury is communication applied. Jupiter is a worldview, is our beliefs. So a square with them, it can kind of mean like you want to portray a certain worldview, but your communication style is in dissonance with this worldview. Okay? It can be kind of like bullying someone about freedom of speech. Okay, it's like, I can curse you all I want. This is the First Amendment. I'm like, okay, but it can also be, it can be funny. It can be very satirical. Okay, very, very satirical. Um, it can be making an awkward sex joke when you want to defend. This is from my personal life. Okay, making an awkward sex joke when you want to defend sexual autonomy, and like all the things. Like you want to say something that is of Jupiter in Taurus, but it kind of comes out like Mercury in Leo, and Mercury in Leo. Once Mercury is also jokes. It's very difficult to resist the punch. And this is a very meta thing because Mars is in Mercury sign. So it's very difficult to resist the punch. It's very difficult to resist the joke. And that joke can be sexist, can be about women, okay? And it can happen. First of all, we must understand this can happen to absolutely all of us, okay? Whether we are activists, whether we are this, whether we are that, I don't know. We can be like the most feminist woman and we can just, joke and hold this dissonance. The greatest example I have from this is I know an activist woman who survived like forced prostitution, and she gives talks, and it was a summertime. So her AC stopped working, and part of activism is about is also about language, and Mercury is also language. And so she said, this air condition, son of a bitch, stopped working on me. So she literally said, son of a bitch, but in Hebrew, son of a bitch is kind of like, I don't know what it's like, bitch, but in Hebrew is zona, which is literally prostitute. So that was that. It's that type of thing. So it can be like a comic relief from the entire tension that we're having. But because it's not a sextile but a square, it can be comic relief with a scandal. Okay, somebody says a sexual joke and they have a scandal around this. I have my own personal story about this, but you will have we'll have the updated stuff here. That's probably way more interesting and up to date. So July 17th, look up for religious people, Orthodox people trying to shine and trying to appeal to the crowds and use language that is very awkward. So, and also it's important in these cases not to pinpoint people on every single word or thing they said. Sometimes it is exposing something deeper, and sometimes it's just like they're trying to get the attention of the crowd. So hold them accountable, but you don't have to cancel them on this one particular saying. They can still apologize and change their speech. July 22, Mercury trines Chiron. So this is another relief, but Mercury is applying to conjunct Lilith when it trines Chiron in Aries. So Chiron, who is Chiron? Chiron is the wounded healer, and my cat wants food constantly. Now she literally sits on the kitchen there, and I was not eating anything cat edible, so. You got food. You want more food? I don't know. So that is what's going on right now. Cat in the kitchen. You like garlic? Oh, damn. Anyway, Moon. Who is Chiron? A moon. What moon? Mercury. Who is Chiron? So Chiron is the archetype of what we call the wounded healer. It's basically this place in our chart where no doctor, no shaman, no this won't make for a full medicine for this issue that we are dealing with. We really need to learn about the medicines and come up with our own recipe for our own healing. It's the patient-specific recipe that you are making for yourself along the years, and this is why it also takes a long time to do. Chiron returns at 50. So Chiron is that wound, and it can be, in Aries, it's the wound about asserting yourself, your autonomy, even the way you think or your intelligence, okay? The rise of people who identifies neurodivergence. Okay, it can also be attested to Chiron in Aries. When I first found out about this definition of neurodivergence, I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. I thought, like, I would say I'm mentally ill. I would laugh about this. Hey, I'm mentally ill. People say, don't say this. Use language, use this, use that. And neurodivergent really accounts for the fact that people work differently. Okay? People work differently, and if you won't adjust the workplace, they will be Hitler, you know. It's enough that one of them will be Hitler. So it's not because they are Hitler, it's because you really have to accommodate for brains that work differently. They won't sit at school and take the amphetamines for long. They're not going to do the same all in the workplace. They come to do different things. And with Aries, they want to do something new with the brain, literally new stuff with the brain. So, and this also means a lot of identities, okay? And there's a wound around this. If you think about neurodivergence, in many cases, traumas are linked with divergent neural system. So a lot of what we even call neurological diseases, like CPTSD, CPTSD is the reasoning, but the ADHD, or ADD. I'm not saying Asperger because I don't know. It's certain types of autism and so on and so forth. So people are being diagnosed, or even HSP, which is highly sensitive people, just the nervous system is hypervigilant. They can be linked even with past traumatic events. So non-volitional, non-dual experiences can also be that case. And eventually the reasoning is that we need to accommodate for diversity of people in the world, and the way we do our, whether it's 9 to 5 or schooling system or work system, is just not fit for the majority of people that are considered marginalized. So Chiron in Aries really hones in on the identity, the autonomy, the self-assertion, the ability to do you, okay? It's Mars ruled head, okay? It's acting out your I am. It can be very intellectual, but it's also very physical, and it's also very impulsive. So Mercury from Leo, conjuncting Lilith, trining Chiron. There something touches on that wound. What is it? A news about neurodivergent people? Is it? It can be something that some leader says that touches on or triggers. You know, people don't like the word trigger. By the way, before I knew of the word trigger, I had an experience that was basically triggering my CPTSD. I had no wording for that. And I called this person, I didn't know about triggers. I just called this person trigger because I was like, it's like you press on the trigger and this boom, you like start shooting at them. I was like, yo, you are like a trigger. You're like a trigger, and then I start shooting. This was more about like seeing, hey, it's not blaming them, but kind of seeing like, oh, this triggers things in me. That's like a trigger. And only years after that, I heard about the word trigger warning, which I think was not even a concept then. So yes, there's a trigger here, and this trigger is of communication. It can be something that a journalist said, a famous journalist says, and it's a trigger. And it can be like the conversation about identities. And again, Rahu is already not yet about to enter Aries at this point. We're going to have eclipses with Rahu in Aries. My darlings, if somebody tells you I identify as an onion, okay, don't kill yourself over it. It shouldn't trigger you so much. Let them be an onion. Let them be an onion. Okay? Really, like the people that start, you are a trans person, you are a man, you are a woman, you are this, you are that. Like, why do you want to die over it? Because they will. They will fight to their death over a definition, and not even gender definition. It can be something that to you seems unreasonable, and you know what? After they kill you, they will think, you know what? I killed them. It was so stupid. But they already did that. Okay, so don't mess with people's identities, even though it may seem funny. Okay, so for me, even though I am neurodivergent, the first time I heard the word neurodivergent, I was like, really? Is that how it's called over there? But then I realized that why it's way better. And yeah, so as long as you don't use it, like you don't medicate people without adjusting their environment. And when you adjust the environment, sometimes, or in many cases, you don't even need to medicate. So yeah, those type of news. Somebody says a joke, there is a news, somebody has a declaration. People might even try to legislate, okay, kind of do the trickery of legislating something against certain identity. And here, with Chiron in Aries, this identity has to do with, you know what, let's check. I want to check a bit the terms. Let's do traditional. With traditional, so 19 Aries would be Mercury term probably. So Mercury term, divergent identity, Mercury term, childlike identity, children, identities of children, so stuff like that, you know, and that touches on a wound. And now, because of the trine, we may have ability to say the right words, or to even get the right term for our identity. I think of when the days where people who had post-trauma from violent relationships would be called borderline, okay? And that created the wave of the naming of narcissistic abuse because you kind of saw it's like, oh, the literature says that the borderline, they mainly are attracted to narcissists. So if I'm a if I'm, you know, you make me crazy. If I'm crazy, yes, I accept this. I probably am crazy that I was attracted to you. Oh, you're probably narcissistic. Okay? So that is where, like they're like, okay, you want to call it, you know, you want to call it an onion, call it an onion. Okay, so you want to treat it. So you want to, when you want to take responsibility and accountability and heal, you're like, okay, call it borderline, call it onion, call it lettuce. I don't know. I'm lettuce. Okay, fine. But I want to have work. I want to have money. I want to be in a place where it's good for me and it's healthy for me and I'm a good person. So this is what helps me. This is what I found. So those type of things and those type of funny things as well as atrocities that were created out of this. Okay, think about the whole, what are the red flags of narcissistic abuse? Instead of, okay, this is how to know that you have relational trauma, which will inevitably put you in a situation where you're more susceptible to attracting people who have relational trauma and displayed by attacking the other. And that is something that contributes to domestic violence, of course. So how do you untangle the knot, which would probably be better wording for that does not tag people for no reason. But there was this stage, there are stages to this, okay? And with Chiron, it can absolutely be about those things. Chiron Mercury, so having an identity, having a name for yourself, and having a name for who you are that is not a diagnosis medically, okay? which require an entire social change. Because in this society, you have to be tagged in some way to get by. Yeah, otherwise you get no resources, and you're and what you have, and then you're being called a criminal, which also has a tag. Here, you're not a criminal. You're antisocial. You're anti this. You're anti that. You know, it's like you don't want to die, so you do what you have to do. So now you are criminal. So that is very much going to be discussed, touched on. On a mundane level, it could be national identities, okay? A discussion that is actually healing around national identity. But with Lilith, I do suspect it has to do more with the sexuality of queer people, the varied identities of sex workers, the varied identities of people with Aries who are hurt by organizations or society or marginalized society, and there can be actually a sense of healing around this. So new leaders on this, and they're going to be having a more Lilith vibe to them. Okay, they're going to be having more, I will not be subordinated to anything. And that includes even when you go soulpreneur. Okay, if it's business, if one of these fall in your business house, it's kind of like, yeah, the fact that I quit my 9 to 5 and now I have to make sure that everything is okay with my reports. Like, I'm neurodivergent. How is everything okay? And I don't have crossed the bracket to hire, attorney or whatnot. You want to tell me I can't make a living doing something decent and file a report at the end of the day? Or if my computer went broke, it means I'm probably not making enough money in the business to report to you to begin with. Okay? Now, what's the problem? Why aren't you coming to me? Why aren't you saying, well, what will help you be an honest citizen and make an honest living? Because you get taxed. Okay? So that is very much that Lilith, I will not be subordinate. And in this constellation, it's, I will not be subordinate to any CEO. I will not be subordinate in my identity to any leader, worldly or not, to patriotism or whatnot. Like, those type of things are very, very active. Yeah. So that is July 17th, which is July 22. July 23rd is already the conjunction with Lilith, which is separating from the trine to Chiron. And squares Uranus. Okay? So, this is a very revolutionary act of speech that doesn't mind to be exposed. If you think about the slut walks, okay? You think about the people in the slut walks that walked like almost naked or had naked shots and wrote, I still am not asking for it. That's what I see with this one. Okay? It's Mercury, communication, Lilith. I will not be subordinate to a man erotically, intimately, and whatnot, or in my identity. And that manifesting some revolution. Okay? This can means that we have the leaders of the opposition, the leaders of protests even. If the protesters with Uranus in 22nd degrees of Taurus can be, old-fashioned women. You think about those feminists that say that a woman with a penis is not a woman, or that people with penises are violent, and so on and so forth. Those protesters, okay, that they kind of like, they are protesters and they want to revolutionize, but to the past and not to human rights. Or to the parts in the past that are more traditional, that are more fixed, that are more agrarian even. And now we have this Mercury Lilith solar figure with the Sun ingressing already to Leo, that has another take. It can be hot take, but it can actually be, she has another take on that revolution. It's kind of like you're taking the great leap forward, but the one of Mao. So that is the sort of exchange that we have here. Yes, it can be an assassination of a journalist. Okay, why? Because Uranus is on the degree of protesting, revolting, and involving the degree of 22 to kill or be killed by Nicolas Stoyanovich. And what we have here is that squaring Mercury in the sign of Leo. So a journalist that is connected with the royalty or something around the sex scandal. It can also be assassination of a journalist figure or a Lilith figure. It's not an exact aspect. So with the 22, I will be more concerned, but it is an aspect. Okay, there can be an attempt to have assassination, and then it depends on the chart of who that person is, who that leader is, who this public speaker, maybe even influencer is, so that in their chart they can evade this assassination or they can not evade it. So it can be by means of a bombing, okay? It can also, yeah, Venus is a bit far from here, so I don't think it's going to be by Venus terms, like by seduction or lover boy or lover girl or whatnot. So, Mercury squares Uranus on July 24. And what I said about assassination of a journalist, this can absolutely cade Mercury in the 22nd degree. Uranus, this kind of, while Uranus can be the suicide bomber or something like this. So Uranus squares Mercury, Sun on Regulus. So Mercury is ruled by Sun, can be a Regulian, a journalist, okay? So Sun triggering this Regulus point and is ruling Mercury here, and this square thing. It can be around like Ukraine, because Ukraine, or even in Israel, unfortunately, because Israel is also associated with Taurus. Ukraine is associated with Taurus. Those type of things. Okay. Other than assassination, it simply means there are really, 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 really exciting news, revolutionary news. It can even be science. Okay, some revolutionary research is being published that is supported by the royalty in some way. Okay, it doesn't have to be just the 22. Research around the death of people, research around longevity, heart rate, dying of heart attack, but this is assassination. It's not natural death here. Okay, the relation between this Mercury, Mars, because Mars is in Mercury sign, Venus is already retrograde, the connection between needles, okay, Mercury is needle, okay, the medical needle, and deaths of heart attacks. Be prepared. So, yeah. Kind of like, ooh, if that's out, whoa, yeah. And if you're thinking, COVID, Pfizer, it's not just COVID, not just Pfizer, not at all. Okay, as a naive holistic health practitioner, we just wanted to volunteer for a hospital and to be a part of the supportive team for volunteering and having like a more holistic approach that can be like the communicator between this and that. So I went to a couple of departments and I saw what's being given, how it is being given, to whom it is being given. My darling, this is all, it's not medicine anymore. And this is done amongst other things. And no, I don't blame doctors here because doctors, they don't even have time to know this because of their working conditions and many other things. So yeah. That is like, whoa, July 24, mark your calendars. It's going to be something. There are probably more things, but you see, I do want to proceed. I do want to finish this episode before I run out of battery. July 27th, Mercury conjuncts Lilith on the 22 now. Lilith on the 22, it can be the female assassin. It can be assassination in the female or the female assassin. But scandals, whatnot. Mercury conjunct Venus retrograde. You know, when you have a reflection on values and you're contemplating something, but you send out a public declaration. You send out a public declaration. Hey, I'm thinking about this. Hey, I'm thinking about kind of like a protocol or a half protocol, because Venus is reflective. She's withdrawn. So it can be something simple like the episode they did yesterday about musings of a withdrawn Venus. It can also be news about something that happened 8 years ago when Venus was in Leo, and I think she was retrograde in Leo. So yeah, another interview with, kind of like the Me Too veterans. Where are they now? Kind of interviews. Going back, okay, because of the Venus natures, going back, women that were active in previous times. And it can also mean that somebody launches an album that wasn't making a comeback. It's not the best election to do that, but it can happen. Maybe, I don't think we have a year since the death of Queen Elizabeth, but it's kind of like the year to the death of, or the year to this, the year to that. Where are they now? Kind of journalism that can be. The fiscal changes. Changes in value of NFTs. NFTs, art-based commerce can have changes. I don't know what the nature of these changes, okay? But something changes there, like the value is changed, or the technology changes around art and preservation of art, okay? Maybe even preservation of art, something like this. So they can also be like this weird law around, women and all kind of that's like, if we haven't killed them before they come to kill us, then they may try to do this. But it's the 28th degree, not the 22nd. 28th July. 28th July, we have Mercury here. Sextile in the nodes. This is Mercury already on the anaretic degree, applying the conjunct Regulus, squaring the node. So this is another day, okay? It's separating from the conjunction with Venus. It's another day in the sense that fated news about leaders, fated news about leaders of any sort can come to surface today. And those news, whatever you read on the news about leaders, and the sun will be already in Leo, it may have a story that is linked to a story that the eclipses will revolve around. Okay? So it's kind of, even when you have let's talk about the no taxation without representation of Pakistan. Okay? No taxation without representation. So usually before something like that, or the Arab Spring, before something like that begins, there is a story. Okay? It's going to contribute to the continuation of the story by eclipses. And this is very much such a story. There is a story. There is a story here. Or stories begin to gather up, the anaretic degree, there's this final straw. It's this final straw that is linked to the fated events that are going to occur and continue to occur also in November eclipses. So that's the end of Mercury in, yeah, that's the end of Mercury that is direct the whole month before it's retrograde in Virgo. So it will be retrograde in its own sign. And this is what Mercury Leo will do. So to summarize, we talked about scandals, child prodigies, people telling the stories with a lot of ardor and passion as well as vulnerability. It's that rare moment where you really want to listen to people speak now, before it's too late. Okay? Listen to them now before it's too late. There can be assassination of a journalist. They can be revolts that are broadcasted or not. Stories about the First Amendment of the United States. Me, an Israeli, half Dutch, can take the risk of talking about this. So the stories of the breaking of the First Amendment, especially during the time when the sun is still in Cancer, kind of like close to the United States, not close because we're already after that, but close to the United States solar return. So the First Amendment in the United States being broken, jailing journalists for broadcasting all kinds of stuff, or strikes, maybe during COVID, maybe that it was like evacuation of people who set out tents because they had no homes to live in, so they were evacuated by the police, and the journalist just wanted to broadcast it, and she was jailed. That was 9 months ago. We might revisit this story when Mercury will conjunct Venus. So Venus retrograde. Trade stuff, trade technologies, NFTs towards the conjunction of Venus and Mercury. Pay attention to NFTs. There's going to be a change there. Funny jokes, satirical moments, and comic reliefs. So now let's look at the news. And this is a part where I didn't include in my previous podcasts. And I'm going to start locally. It's a lot of Hebrew here, so you will have to pardon me, but I will translate to you if I see anything that comes up related to Mercury ingressing. So the first thing today, it is a Mars Day in Israel, and we have a lot of demonstrations. They want to change the juristic system to be more supposedly representative of the government, but they also want to cancel the committees for advancing the women's rights and LGBTQ. They want to turn us into Iran, the Iran that we are fighting against, instead of keeping it at what keeps Israel strong. And this villa in the jungle is its emphasis on varied technology, on a technological education and culture, of the funding culture that is even support of broadcasting a Palestinian oppression in occupation, of the ability to speak, the ability to be, gay and raise children, and live at a home that belongs to an Orthodox Jew, and have the Arab Israeli person or Palestinian person come to fix your plumbing when you need you call. So, this is not a allegory. Okay, I have a Facebook friend that are a gay couple. They live in Tel Aviv, and they had to call the Orthodox Jewish landlord. So he will call the Arabic person, I think it was handyman, to come fix something. I don't know if it was in the plumbing or what. I was like, that's what kept Israel as the villa in the jungle. Unfortunately, it is in risk now. So today is called Yom HaShibush, which is basically mean the day of, how do you say Shibush? The day of disturbance, or disturbing the things or intermitting the change. And so we recently had somebody high in the police that was fired because he was considered too tolerant. And mind you, there was no tolerance. Huh? So a lot of very, very difficult fights between police and protesters. Ayalon, which is a very major road highway in Israel, was blocked. So finally, they're blocking it for something. Like if you blocked it a long time ago, we wouldn't be here today. So yeah, so a lot of people got arrested. It's something that was planned. It's something that we knew is going to happen. This is police versus the protesters. I don't know if it's directly Mercury in Leo, okay? But it's definitely, yeah, it's like Mercury, Pluto, Mercury opposition Pluto, Mercury the nodes. Maybe it has to do with the square to the nodes, okay? Because when the node is going to be, the Rahu is going to be ruled by Mars and Ketu by Venus, we're going to purge diplomacy, okay? And we're gonna have to assert ourselves by any means necessary, our autonomy. Even women will have to be very Martian, okay, to assert themselves by any means necessary. The times where women were oppressed, they would, the only way was to bleed, to poison the husband, because only women were in the kitchen. The only way to make a scientific experiment in spirit and in matter was to do witchcraft. And so women were accused of witchcraft, but they couldn't study like in academia or so. A lot of children died because the medicine was by men, and if a woman knew what to do, okay, then she would be a witch, then you wouldn't be allowed to call her. So a lot of children died. And so those type of things are kind of very much where women are going to have to, if they are oppressed, now they have to be Martian. And they have to do hidden tactics, but with Mars in Mars is the ruler of Aries, is more impulsive, explosive power. We can have female explosive terrorists or something, guerrilla warriors for terrorists, something like that, heroine women, or women that are trans women or something like this. So, pilots. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, the pilots are telling to the Air Force commander, we will not serve the king. Okay, this is very much in the spirit of the times. Okay, Martian powers, Air Force, which is considered elite units, are telling to their commanders. So it's an internal talk, but it's on the news. Okay, we hear about the army on the news. Mars in Mercury sign, Mercury being shown here. Mercury is in journalism. This is, journalism. And what they say is, we will not serve the king. Okay? Meaning Benjamin Netanyahu. So this is a very Mercury Leo with Mars and Mercury sign conversation. Okay? The military breaks news. We will not serve the king. Here, a negation form. And Mars is severing ties with the unjust. But here the Mercury is in Leo and the Sun is in Cancer. Okay, so the leader of the nation is not supported by the elite of the army because they say we will not serve a king. Okay, he's Paulson has a king. He wants to cancel everything democratic in Israel. And there's a big problem with the juristic system, both in Israel, we saw it in the US very recently with the student loans. But there's a big problem with juristics, absolutely. But the answer is not tyranny, right? And they say we will not serve the king, very much at the spirit of this ingress. Okay, this is another interesting. This an athlete. He developed a technology that turns his heat to electricity that makes him stronger. And then he started playing with that, and he won Roland Garros and played a game against Hubert Hurkacz in Wimbledon. It turns me to Iron Man. Okay, so this is a chip. This is very much a Mercury thing. This mysterious chip that a player uses to make himself to make stronger by electricity. And now is this legal? Okay. So we have a technology in the news. And who is it? It's an athlete, right? Tennis. So athlete is also, you think about tennis balls, it's a sport, Mars, that you play with your hands. Mercury. Okay. So that is very interesting for the ingress. More stuff. Well, fortunately, I don't see any like weird news. Just live from the day of making things. Well, by us it's in 8 in the evening. So yeah. A lot of people are at the airport. It's the second day, I think. Not the second day. They have been blocking the airport for quite a while now. So this is very interesting because during COVID, the airport was blocked by the government. Now it is blocked by the people. Very interesting. And it's 50 years to a war of Yom Kippur from 1963. So this is the Chiron return for Yom Kippur. So we'll probably have a lot of veterans talk. There probably is going to pop something very interesting at around the trine of Mercury to Chiron. And I'll keep you up to speed if it's something that's relevant on a like more than a local level. It probably will be, okay? Some people might break a certain silence of 50 years this year. So, Tottenham. So change of players, changing leagues. Okay, this is unfortunately very relevant. One of the police people, okay, one of them was on a horse because they have like some of them have horses. So one of these people was using the horse to beat down an older lady that was demonstrating. So this is unfortunately this is an unfortunate event of Venus stationing when Jupiter horses is in Taurus, and the ruler and like what's going on? Like this is very weird, but this is something of the Venus not doing so well because of a horse that is serving of the king. Okay, so this huge problem. More than 40 were arrested. Okay, so this is, yeah. So, and the thing with our police is that the people who are not violent in the police are being cast away, especially if the people who are commanders and were more tolerant, were more like serving, the people, are being outcast, and people that are very violent are being put instead of them. Okay, so this is something that is going on right now. Okay, this is local. Now let's do news, just news. News. So this is BBC broadcasting the protests in Israel. Resistance, Day of Resistance, but this is ours. This is The Guardian. Why are we all over the news? Like we're not the only country. Like it's not that I'm unhappy that it's being broadcasted. I'm very happy that it's broadcasted. It's kind of like I'm not. I don't think we're the only one who's doing really bad shit right now. Initial approval to judicial overhaul bill. Okay, Al Jazeera. Of course, it's going to be more related with Israel because it's like algorithm, but let's see. Experts say more than 800,000 Palestinians, including children, okay, children, Mercury ingress into Leo, Mercury's children, as young as 12, detained by Israel since 1967 occupation. Again, this is the UN kind of going over. And Israel is ruled, the sun of Israel is in Taurus, so she's ruled by Venus. So we're gonna have Israel on the news quite a lot now, with as long as Venus is in Leo. So this is more about, people it's basically children being held without trial. As young as 12 years old, so yeah. 100. And the thing is, as with many guerrilla wars in many regions, children are being recruited to fight and to kill and to do very criminal things, but also children are being murdered and trafficked and sex trafficked and so on and so forth. Because they're children, okay, so you can't sentence to death a child because he murdered somebody. You can't put him in jail because he murdered somebody. And then you say, oh my God, why is Israel taking these children and putting them in jail? Israel is basically acting in front of an army of children. And there are many faces to this, okay? But the end result is that we have children being trafficked, marketed, sold, coerced to be the frontier of guerrilla wars. So that adults won't die, and then the children will anyway be trafficked, by the way, okay? If the older generations die, the children will anyway be trafficked into these things. So it's a very deep problem, and now it's surfacing on the news. Again, basically it's exposing the plutocracy, it's exposing the regime of Israel. Is displayed here by Pluto and Capricorn and Mercury as children, but on the news then how the atrocity of the regime basically towards children is being exposed. It's not the only atrocity of Israel towards, we can say that Israel is cruel to children without distinction of race, territory, and whatnot. So yeah, the kidnap of Yemen children, castrating people, and the not to violence, and the colony therapy, and so on and so forth. Israeli forces say homemade rockets from Jenin contained no explosives. So this is the horror of Jenin. That we have CNN's. Can we get just like news stuff? But it will probably give me local stuff. Oh, Ukraine and Russia. Zelensky hits out at absurd NATO delays. So this is very, very live. Want to see if it has anything to do with the ingress. But this is the problem with holding a phone. I just have to accept the cookies. Ukraine-Russia war latest. Zelensky hit out absurd NATO delays. Naively played same Putin speech. In prison for 100 days. So Ukrainian president said it would be absurd if his country is not offered NATO membership at all the alliances summit. Okay. True. Which is under way in the Lithuanian capital of Vilnius. And the Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny has revealed the morale building he has been subjected to behind bars. So he had to listen to Putin's speech on repeat 100 times. I think it is very difficult to do this because if you want somebody to support you and you bombard them with your messages by force, they will not be brainwashed to support you. What they will be is very, very antagonizing of you. But this is, what was done according to this person. Turkey agrees to support Sweden joining NATO. So what you need to know, Finland and Sweden have joined NATO, okay? The days where we could say, oh, the Nordic countries are splendidly isolated. Oh, Australia is splendidly isolated. We don't have this today. Those places where I just want to retreat to a cabin in the woods is like, okay, there's a problem with that today. What support is military alliance giving Ukraine? Jailed Russian opposition, yeah, that's told. Ukraine's Internet Army of Fellas hold NAFO summit down the road from NATO. Internet Army of Fellas. So Internet Army, okay, Mars and Mercury sign, Internet Army. Okay, this is more the Mars ingress than the Mercury. That being on the news is Mercury doing things, but no, even that being on the news is Mars into Virgo. Russia has no red lines to prevent attacks on nuclear plant. This is very, it's like agriculture. You plant a nuclear field, and now it is sacred, it's protected. I'm not saying this on Russia, it's any country. It's that, surely they did not invent this. So, your question answered. How much has the UK spent supporting Ukraine? Do we even want to know? So, yeah. Oh, we need sun. Okay, we have the physics champion of youth. So, like I said, this youth prodigy. We have, okay, it's just news about someone who is a teenager, and he's got a championship in physics for the entire Asia region. So child prodigies on the news. Like I said, this ingress absolute is 3 hours ago. EU population increases again after 2 years of decrease. I don't know to delineate population increase, okay? The latest ITV news headlines, as parents say they stand by BBC presenter claims. Okay, what is this? ITVX. As BBC pauses its investigation into allegation against presenter. Okay. Oh, wait. Whatever. Even if we don't accept these things, there are these 0 days malwares where they don't even need your interaction or agreement or pressing on any key to plant like surveillance in. So, whatever. BBC pauses internal when looking into presenters. What is this? Complaints about the male presenter. Okay, but what complaints? What is it? A sex scandal? This, that? Okay, I have to. No, I cannot. No, I cannot. I'm not going to broadcast this now. Released a statement and timeline of events relating to complaints about the male presenter. So probably sex scandal. Maybe pedophilia, maybe not. So this is BBC Director General, and they just stopped, journalist scandal on the news, 12 p.m. That was today. So like I said, journalist related scandals. So famous journalist on the news. So that is something that, I pretty much, this detail, but I pretty much predicted. Trump wants trial. Like I said, Trump is on the news for a while, but let's see if there is something new here. His ascendant is 29 degrees Leo, so I don't. but yes, we have planets around this. Trump wants classified documents trial delayed to after 2024 as Georgia grand jury meets. Okay, nothing big. It's just his action. It's just Trump on the news. We're gonna have a lot of it. We're gonna have also Elon Musk on the news, very likely. So yeah, Hughes and Wells camp withdraw against Cardiff, Cambridge United. What is this 3 days ago? So it's not for today. Not for today. 11 hours ago, my broadcast, 19 years full broadcast. I don't know. Student news, summer assessment results are now available. English news today, top stories. Hindustan Times. Let's see, what is this? Yachting news. Super yacht news. Bengal Panchayat, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, elections live. SFI block road over state president detention. State president detention. So the state president is in detention. Okay, a leader in detention by, oh, okay. So this is, it's kind of like, it's 18 minutes ago. India News. Calling people, psychotic, or saying they need psychiatrists, was attack over Kalang Jibe. So it's political attack, people blaming each other for being mentally ill. It's nothing new, actually. Who is ED plus third generation extension? 2 U.S. nationals joined J&K's Amarant Yata, call it dream come true. Now here is the issue with trying to be more inclusive in news broadcasting. From my local area, I can tell more, okay? Even stuff like United States, I'm sorry, when every kid, the news that they watch, the shows that they watch, the policies that they have for their medical and for their school, we can pretty say that the entire world is American. But other than that, I don't live in India. I don't know India. I don't know UK in depth. I don't know these places in depth. So I can do very, very little. I can be inclusive, but I can run the risk of a lot of misinterpretation here. So I'm both being, trying to get out of, my own local area and not do misjustice to places where I don't know how to even interpret. So yeah. Super yachting news. Is there something like what news? So these are yachts, and we're running out of topic because there's nothing. It's why am I getting super yachts now? Turkey makes U-turn on Sweden. So Turkey-Sweden relations, I don't know deeply the charts of those, but this is, the Turkey begins to talk with Sweden or against Sweden, and Sweden wants to be in NATO, and Finland is already in NATO. The world is becoming way more armed and way more globally armed. So the wars are way more global even than the world wars, probably. Yikes. Okay, I think Edmund Tree grants. Newsflash. What is it? Let's look. Maybe we'll find something nice here. Edmund Grant Program. Neighborhood groups in public schools or their associate parent teachers receive trees free of charge as a part of the Edmund Tree Grant programs. I want trees for my yard. I don't think they'll give me some, but it's very lovely. If you want to have some trees, and maybe you can apply for the Edmund Tree Grants. So they got a free advertisement from me. So this is what I have to say. This is what's on the news. In general, let's see if we have something for the US news other than Trump. For those of you who are headlines, the face of real news, WSJ. It was like Amazon Prime Day to test consumer demand. I don't even know this business news. Heat wave. Okay, summertime. Nothing much to say about this. Drink. Okay, so caffeine drinks. Caffeine, could caffeine drinks be Mars in Virgo? I don't know. Because Mars is about, this boost to, but I don't know to delineate that. Inside the AP investigation into the ethics practices of the Supreme Court Justice. So, court justice on the news. U.S. mother pleads guilty to giving daughter abortion pills and burying fetus. Okay, so this is okay. If we were looking for the news, the stories that are going to build up to create more stuff, then we have it. Nebraska, U.S. mother pleads guilty to giving daughter abortion pills and burying fetus. After 20 weeks and tampering with human skeletal remains. So she had a 17 years old daughter, got pregnant. It considered illegal abortion, but she couldn't have legal abortion. So, and these stories are already, on the news. But this was Monday, 10th of July. So it's not the Mercury ingress to Leo. It's not the Mercury ingress to Leo. It's definitely stories about the death of children, Mercury opposition Pluto, but it's not related to this episode. I just kind of note the story. I would read it in the context of Venus retrograde and Venus shade retrograde. We will hear about such stories way more. And maybe there'll even be a medical discussion or dispute about these things. So actually, the professor that guided me in my thesis, his opinion about abortions, he was not capitalist, so he did not support abortion for autonomy over the body reasons, but he understood that women are going to do this anyway, and it's going to be way more dangerous to both the child and the mother, and therefore it is best to provide for the safest environment to do this. That was why he was supportive of the right of women to have abortions legally. So yeah, you could disagree with someone but agree with them even though the reasoning is different, right? Okay, somebody stabbed in prison. Convicted abuser asked gymnastics doctor. Larry Nazar stabbed in prison 11 hours ago. I don't know if it's particularly related to now, to the ingress. White House lays out effort against animal sedatives but doesn't call for new psilocybin, but doesn't call for new restrictions. Psilocybin, the powerful animal sedative that's spreading through the nation, illicit drug supply. And notice, this is sedative. Most addictions are around prescribed drugs, and even when people take stuff like heroin, like this, like that, is because they have stress in their lives. They don't know how to overcome it, and they may not have the support, that they don't have support. So if they can get something to shut it off for a while, then they will do it. And when they try to quit it, without supporting system, they're all alone in this. And then they have to be like this superhuman hero every single day of their lives for the rest of their lives. And that's, we really need to make it more easy on people to make nourishing choices in life. So yes, but this is unrelated to this conversation. That was Mercury Leo. So I wish you safe summer and see you on my next